YouTube Model Builders live show tonight, Saturday, November 21st, 2015. Tonight's guest will be Miles Hale, along with Barry Rosier, our technical director, and myself, Big Bill Graham from South Brooklyn Railroad. First of all, I want to apologize for the late start, only 7 minutes, but life has a way of getting in the way. So we do apologize for the tardiness of this start of the show, and tonight where YouTube Model Builders is brought to you by the free online magazine, the e-magazine, which was recently published this past week. If you haven't subscribed to it, please go to the YouTube Model Builders .com website, and you can subscribe to it and see the recent magazine as well as the back issues. And every Tuesdays and Thursdays we have live hangout chats and presentations with Dude, John, Barry, and Mike, and Troy and Gino. They do various hangouts and various presentations on different parts of the model. And, of course, the YouTube Model Builders live show, where we bring you extraordinary entertainment, extraordinary guests with new topics, great ideas, and me. What can I tell you? Life is good. Anyway, without further ado, we have sponsors that we have to give, and I sometimes get ahead of myself with them. So if we could put up what the giveaways are tonight, Barry, that would be great. Hey, we have road striping kit from Highways and Byways, Arts and Crafts store. From there's a road striping kit and a package of vinyl stripes for your model railroad by highwaysandbyways.com. You guys should check out his website. He's got some really good stuff, and this stuff is really, really good. Gino Sharp, on his previous layout, on the HO layout, put these down and weathered them, and they held up really well. So road striping kit by Highways and Byways in HO. And from our good friends at Central Valley Model Works, we have the 150-foot at scale HO scale punch plate bridge kit. That bridge that you see in the photo is what you win if you get it picked, if you're picked the winner. And that's a very good bridge. And Central Valley has been a long time sponsor of the show. Thank you very much, guys. And who else do we got here? And we have our good friend Bob Lacey from Shadow Model Trees. 6 HO or N-scale handmade oak trees. He will be giving away tonight. And I just recently bought 10 autumn type trees from him. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So 6 HO or N-scale handmade oak trees from Bob Lacey, Long Shadow Model Trees. And Precision Design Company, joint bars in HO and N scale. Your choice if you're an N scaler or a HO scaler. And who else do we have? I think we have one more, don't we, Barry?
Yes, we do.
Oh, Dave's Decals, model decals and stuff. Your choice of 2 sheets. If you win this, you get to go to daveart.net and pick out 2 sheets of your choice, and he will send them right to you. So that's it for the
yes, it is for now.
Well, tonight's guest is Miles Hale, and you all have seen Miles Hale. Miles is a regular on the Hangouts and also on our live show. And tonight we're doing a thing. Miles is doing a thing on scenery, starting scenery. And if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to to ask these questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to them ASAP. And without further ado, Miles Hale.
Well, Bill and Barry, thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction. I want to try and do kind of a combination show tonight. I do want to cover a lot on the scenery, but I want to talk about what I went through the process to think how I was going to make the scenery happen on my layout, because I think it may relate to a lot of you out there who are watching, and some of the thought process that you might want to go through in laying out your own scenery or thinking about how it will come about. Even though you may not be in the same scale or doing the same thing I am, some of the processes are kind of the same. Also, the very first thing I want to kind of deviate just a little bit because I want to combine some of the shows that I did with Trainmasters TV tonight and kind of make them flow maybe a little bit better. Sometimes when it's segmented into shows, you don't get the flow as well. So we're going to start off with the very first thing that I think about when it comes to doing the model railroad, and that's the environment. And one of the environments I think about always is, what am I going to do with my friends? Because I like a railroad that operates and has people over and we kind of have a great time. I used to work for the railroad, so I don't really go by rules because I didn't like working under the rules, and I certainly don't like playing under them. So when we come over here, we kind of go with very few rules in my operations, and we try to have a good time. And one of the things that I have is a crew lounge like this. And this is the old dining room table from the house that we had before this one. And I made up a special neon sign that said Fran's Diner. She used to be a Betty Crocker Test kitchen cook, so I made this and put it in our old kitchen. This was our dining area. Now it's the area for the guys to have cookies or cake or ice cream or whatever after we operate. And I've got some things stashed around here that are kind of memorabilia. The door right here behind me is the one that you would come in if you were coming into the railroad. And this would be the first scene kind of that you would see would be this room. Now over here on the sides, I start to have some memorabilia. I've got all my memorabilia. I've got some of my G-scale here for the outdoor railroad stacked up. We obviously have a TV so we can watch some television programs as we need. This is the man cave after all. And then I have some more memorabilia up here, both from my parents and grandparents over here, the times when I was a switchman on the railroad. I've got an old Brownie camera. This actually is the old plate rectifier, which was the first one that my dad and I used when we first started railroading, long before we had any kind of even MRC type controls or whatever. So a long time ago. My old rubber band drive F units up here on the wall. Some collectors from the Santa Fe. This is an actual track drawing set used by the engineers in the office to draw track plans. My dad's old 16 millimeter and his grandfather's postcard projector. And he actually projected the logo for my South Park line up on the building and painted that on my first railroad building, and his old flashlight. So anyway, after you get past all that, then we go into the railroad room. So let me go in here a little bit, and I'm going to swap cameras for you here so you can see what we're doing. This is the view that you would have coming into the railroad. And this is one of the things that I really consider to be of the utmost importance, is trying to get the very first scene that you see as you come into the railroad right, because that's going to be the scene that everybody's going to remember your railroad by. Now, I'm trying to do a very large city scene. I'd like to do the Kansas City Bottoms, the Kansas City West Bottoms area. Actually, how do I describe it? It's the industrial area where everything kind of came together in Kansas City. And most of the buildings are the 9-story buildings like my Lux and Mercantile back here. A lot of the other buildings around here should be the same. But if you notice, I've got some here that kind of frame, and they're fairly good sized. But over here, I kind of destroy the illusion that I want from a first-time viewer. Because the one thing I never really like to do in a railroad is let the viewer, you or anyone else, or even myself, come in and see the entire railroad at one shot. Because I use the old adage, or the saying, or the idea anyway, that if you do that, then the person comes in and says, "Oh, nice railroad. Leave. Why look at any more?" I want to make it so that you're lured in, so that you see something that looks good, and then it attracts you to come in and see more and more things as you go along. So let me do another shot up here, and then I'm going to help Fran's running my camera tonight. I'm going to do a little camera setup. This is an overall of the actual room itself, and sorry, we're getting camera set here. The overall of the entire room, and you can kind of see back in here. I don't have very much of a city scene. I would like to have what you saw when you first came in, and let's see if I can get that shot back. Why am I not seeing that shot? Let's try that. Okay, Fran, bring it back over and show it down this aisle here. No, just pan it. There we go. Okay. What I really would like to see, and I'm going to get out of the way so you can see it a little bit here. I would like to have these buildings tucked back here all along the entire of my background, 360 degrees all the way around the room. And I'd like for most of them to be up at this height. I've already determined that one of the only ways that I'm going to be able to do that is with photographic backgrounds. I could never afford, well, I won't say never. It would take me a very long time in terms of time of my lifetime and in terms of cost to make more of the castings. These are from Chooch, they're O-scale, but to make those would be very, very costly in terms of molds and then urethane castings and getting things done. But what I've done is I've worked to try and make things go a little bit quicker, and I'm going to do it with some photographic backgrounds. I'm going to pull a little bit here on my cord for a minute. Give me enough cord to hang myself or do something. Over on this side over here, I think you can still see me. Yep. I want to block your view, and I also want to create some of the scene of Kansas City. So I'm going to pull this off, and I'll come back to you before I reveal this. This is the Kansas City Stockyards building, and I'm going to get up. Fran can tell me you got it just about full frame. That's it was a huge, huge building. I think it was 9 or 10 stories, similar to the Luxon building over here on this side, and it will make an absolutely great view block. So what I did to test that idea out was to take some gator board, and I like gator board better than foam core because gator board is much stiffer. It has a styrene face on both the front and the back, and so it does not warp. And so I'm going to show you the building here at O-scale. It takes a little bit to get this monster up here. Whoa. But you'll very quickly get the idea that I am going to have a view block.
Oh, yeah.
View block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Godzilla just arrived at the city. What I have now is I have an arrangement where my operators will spot the stock cars on this side that are for pork, the hogs. We both slaughtered hogs and cattle here in Kansas City. So this is my hog side. Hogs are a little bit unusual when you handle them because they have to be undercover. They don't have any sweat glands. They can't be out in the open sun. So here I'll put in a stacking of various levels. They had about 4 levels in Kansas City where they would bring the hogs in and then they would run them into pens and they would stack them on different floors before they were processed. So we'll put that assembly in here and it'll give me spots for about 5 or 6 cars on this side. Now what I want to do is swap on you, and I'm going to let Fran run if she wants to. Let's see, let's do a different camera. Let's do this one. I think that'll do better. What? Nope. Sorry, we'll go back to the other one. Lose my camera operator and I lose track of what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to move this camera around a little bit for you. Sorry to move it on you while it's going on here. This is the back side of the building. And we'll try and come out, give you a better shot. Here's the cattle side. This is the back side then of the building. And I have several tracks coming in here. I have holding tracks here, 2 of them. I have a track here where I can put my cattle in. That's my idea, is to try and get a view block in here and create some kind of an aisle down this center aisle. Gives you a little bit better feeling that you're being dwarfed by the buildings. I'm going to turn this, be in the shot for a second. Okay, so now I'm starting to get the feeling that you're being dwarfed by buildings on both sides. I still have an opening over here. If you watched one of my Model Railroad YouTube videos that are also free out there, just like the YouTube model builders are, I had Larry Patch in here and we talked about putting another building in here. And that will be my game plan, is to come in and put a building in addition to Luxon here, probably up at the same height, and coming back this way and filling this in. Because John Lawrence always used the analogy. I used to always build Colorado railroads, and I love to do floor-to-ceiling scenery, so that you walked in the aisles and you walked actually up the canyons in my railroad. And John always said, you're building the canyons of Colorado, I'm building the canyons of New York, because he modeled the New York, New London, and Western, which was a fictitious railroad kind of on the New York Central and kind of on the Long Island. And Bill will appreciate that. But at any rate, that's what John tried to do, and that's what I'm going to try to do now with this railroad. I've kind of come full circle. I've built, I don't know, 5 or 6 railroads of my own in Denver, Rio Grande, and now it's time to do Kansas City. Now, some of the other things that I did consider before I started where I did a cyclorama, a curved background here, so you can see I don't have any corners. It greatly enhances the illusion of depth. Fran's still here, so I'll get her to pan over. Come over and shoot my corner over here, would you? You can kind of see where I'm at. I don't see me. Oh, I'm not seeing me. Oh, well. Okay. Anyway, the corner up in here is, oh, I see me now. I'm so small. Anyway, you can't see the corner here, and it just looks like that room just goes on forever. It makes for a great illusion of depth in a model railroad, in my opinion anyway. And so photographic buildings are going to be my key in here, along with trying to create the city. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about in this little bit of talking about planning and whatever is the area that's down over here, and I'm going to move the camera on Fran here a little bit. I'll bring it around, and let's see here. Bring it down. This is a little scene that I have here. And Fran, I'm blessed with the fact that I'm married to a master model railroader. And Fran actually teaches with us at Amherst, as a lot of you know. So we had a big conversation down here about this area, because my idea was that I was going to put a bridge across here. I had the street running here, and I've got a street that's turning into my stockyard, and that wasn't looking too bad. But I didn't know how on earth I was going to handle the side over here where this bridge goes into my wall. How am I going to paint that, and how am I going to handle it? So it sat here like this for probably 6 months or so, and finally Fran came down. She said, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you take this out? And why don't you take this out? And why don't you take this out and this out? Oops, don't want to break it. And why don't you take this out? And all of this. And you're kind of getting the idea real quick here. She said, take the whole thing out and just get rid of it, if I don't destroy it doing that. And then she said, okay, now, what I have here, I think you may be able to see it, is I've got my hobo village here that I built on the Trainmaster show. And I've got an old trailer, and I've got an old building. My city, which starts way down on the far end, tends to deteriorate as it comes towards us here. I'm getting towards the industrial area, inner urban area, whatever, and I'm getting into hobo land here. So whatever goes in here kind of needs to go along with that theory that this is not so well developed. So the other thing that I had was I had the Walther's Motel. And I've got several of the additional buildings here for it. So let's set some of them around. And my point here is that I don't care what you think maybe might work on your railroad. When you draw it initially, excuse me, initially, you can always come back after the fact and make a change if it looks better. And I purposefully did not scenic this area and finish out all that building area that I showed you earlier, simply because it just did not feel right. So this feels a little bit better to me, and I'm going to live with it for probably a month or so, and then we'll try it. And then, to go a little further with that idea of change, we're going to go over here. And I'm going to make a little swap for you here, hopefully. I don't lose you in the process. Okay, different scene. This is another peninsula on the railroad, and you can see it's pretty junky. And I really have not done anything with it because I've been preaching now all this last week that one thing we need to do is to ballast when the track gets to the point where it's running correctly. And this track is running correctly. We've already had one operating session on it. It works great. I got a little wild in my concept, and I'll back you off here so you can kind of see a little bit. That's just. I've got one track that comes in this way and goes to the far side over there. My track that comes from the far side at the back over here comes around and services here. So I have tracks that are not related, even though these tracks and those tracks are on this peninsula. You can't get from one to the other. You would have to go out, go along the main line, and come back in. And actually, my theory there is that the track on the far side, which is being serviced here, is going to be serviced from the yard behind me. This track, which is close to me, which comes from the far side, will be serviced from the yard that's over there on the far end. So I get different yard masters switching different sides. And I don't even know at this point if I even really like that plan, because it's not tricking my whatever. It's just not working right for me. So I may, even though this has been ballasted, and even though it's down, I may still yet come back, tear it up, and do it again. I don't know. Let's see. My idea is, and I didn't set a camera up to show you this, but I've got a street that comes from over here, and imaginary comes across my aisle. And in Kansas City, we had a lot of elevateds like Chicago and New York have. And I wanted an elevated street to go across this peninsula here and then put some buildings down below, which we had a lot of as we operated. So
Miles,
one more time.
Miles, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How much, a question I have is, how much planning went in on paper on this before it actually became a physical build?
Well, I did probably, shoot, I don't know. I probably did 6 months or so anyway, at least.
Right.
To get things kind of laid out. Yeah, I mean, I had plenty of time because the other thing I should talk about is that what I'm showing you is what I consider to be my ideal railroad.
Right.
What I want. And I've done, now, I don't know, we've been in 3 houses, I guess, where we've had custom rooms done. And this is just the last one, I hope. I hope this is the last dream one. I thought I was going to be in Louisville, Kentucky forever, and that all changed. So when I lost my job over there.
Yeah.
And then I came over here and I retired, so that was the end of that. At any rate, this building is made, like I say, cyclorama. It doesn't have any corners in it, which is fine. All my last 3 railroads have been that same way, and I really like that ambiance that it creates, because it gives you the feeling that you're in a world by itself, and I really kind of like that feeling. But that's a lot of work to go to, and a lot of people are just satisfied, and I think it works awfully well too, is just simply to wrap from one wall to the other and call that good. And you don't have to go to the trouble that I did to wrap up to the ceiling and make what I call a compound corner here, where you have 2 walls and a ceiling all coming together at the same time. And that is in this shot. You're just right out of the frame here is the light overhead. The other thing that I've done, which I did in the last 2 railroads, both Louisville and here, was to create an awful lot of light. There's a very good clinic that's put out by Jimmy Daly, and I think somebody else also does one very similar to that. They're both ophthalmologists, and they talk about you need a lot of light as you get older.
Yes.
You know, you need magnifiers, you need light, And I have 9, let's see, what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, I have 7 bays of light in this room, and they have 2 8-foot double bulb fluorescent fixtures in each of those 7 bays. So I have a lot of light pouring into this railroad room. And all of it's diffused. I should give you a shot of that. We'll move the camera a little bit here. Sorry to keep moving the camera on you.
Not a problem.
They are really long and they're hot, but I don't care. I mean, you know, hot in terms of the amount of light. They're not hot in terms of temperature. Whoops. It's okay to move, you just don't drop you. At any rate, they give me a lot of light so that I can really see what I'm doing, and I can come in here and I can work. And the other thing I like is I was always taught, if you can put your hand within a couple of inches here and not see shadow, your light is really more or less correct or right, and you don't see a shadow when I put my hand out here. I've got it diffused so much with all that you saw when I tilted up. I use the cracked ice as my diffusion material, but egg crate, cracked ice, the checkerboard, whatever you want to use, but just diffuse it so it's not a direct light.
Right.
I think the valence lighting is really pretty good, but the better valence lighting is when you put the cracked ice or the egg crate up there to diffuse it so that you don't get that harsh light. Now, some guys, lighting experts, and Jerry Cornwell, who's the owner of Mount Albert, does this. He's a lighting expert. He's won all kinds of awards from the National Lighting Society. He does lighting for theaters and convention centers. I mean, this guy's a really genius at doing it. And he has LED lighting throughout his entire railroad, and he spotlights various scenes around there, and he changes the amount of light that he has in different areas. And that's one way to do it. One thing I want to say here is that I never want to present my ideas as being the only way to do it or the best way to do it. It's the way that I do it, and that's fine. But what's the best way is the way that makes you happy. And you know, take my ideas, take anybody's ideas, I don't care, and put them together, but they need to be your ideas. You know, whoever you are out there watching, it's got to make you happy or it's no good. So at any rate, I like it that it doesn't throw shadows. I like that it has a lot of light. Some people would like a lot less and do a little more atmosphere in here, maybe put their light on their work table back where they build the models, and that's fine. I just like a lot of light.
Well, Miles, we have a few comments here that are coming in.
Sure.
Yeah, we have from, this one looks like it's from Bob Lacey. He goes, he agrees about that your eye needs a focal point, and then you let the people come in and see the rest of your layout. And so definitely that's a very valid thing to do when you walk in your room. So you have everybody, you guide them through your layout.
Yeah, definitely. The first, you know, it's the old first impressions adage that everybody uses for, you know, whether or not it's a job interview or a whatever. First impressions are the best and the most lasting. So you really want that first impression that they get of your railroad to be as spectacular as you can make it. I used to build big mountains, and people would walk in and be faced with a mountain as big as they were.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's what immediately made the person feel dwarfed, and it also dwarfed the trains, which is what it is in real life. But
yeah,
the bigger the better.
I think also the fact of the matter is that when you come into your train room, you get that wow effect.
Yes.
You know, first of all, the Stockyard building that you're putting there, and the Vauxhall building next to it, it's like a canyon walking in. So you're dwarfed by these buildings, and you're kind of like, you know, looking around at those, and then as you come to the end of the aisle, you basically, your eye is going to drift up to the top because you're looking at these buildings as you've never seen it on a model railroad, and you're walking to the end of the aisle, and then when you get to the end of the aisle is when you discover that there's more railroad.
That's right.
And I think that's the wow effect. It's like, oh, this is great, wow, and then you walk down, and then you look around and see. And you go, oh, there's more here that meets the eye. Oh. And You know, when you
I
pan, when
I
you
don't want to diminish my accomplishments, or, well, forget me. Let's take me out of the picture. I don't want to diminish the accomplishments of Lex Parker or Alan McClellan or Tony Kester, but if you go to their railroad, I can almost guarantee you that 10 years from now, what you will remember is that gorgeous 50-stall roundhouse or that huge coal mine on the hillside. John and I always used to say, you'll remember the buildings even though you may not remember the person.
yeah, very true.
I'm not
I'll
trying to
remember this one when you build
or
it.
whatever, but they remember what you've done. They remember your buildings more than they do you. Just a fact of life. I mean, they make bigger impressions. We're used to meeting people, but we're not used to seeing humongous buildings or humongous mines or whatever. And those things really make an indelible impression that we remember for much longer.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Here's a sort of a comment question from David Cole. It says, I paint landscapes, and one aspect of color is to darken corners to direct a viewer's eye towards what you want them to see. And has anyone thought about using this approach, maybe with the background or with building colors?
Well, the short answer that the news broadcaster always hates is yes. He's a painter, and whenever I always talk about doing stencil painting on my backgrounds, or I talk about painting my trees, I always tell people I'm not an artist. I mean, all you got to do is look at it and you can tell that. So it's hard for me to relate to or talk about artistic approaches to creating depth or to creating the illusions that we necessarily want on a railroad. I painted a few trees back here, which I think look pretty good. I've done the stencil clouds up here. That looks okay to me too. Good enough for what I want to do. But yes, there are a lot of people out there that want to do a whole lot more with their background. There are a lot of people, and I wish I was one of them, that I could come in here and paint buildings on my background, rather than having to make physical background flats to accomplish that background that I want behind the trains.
Yeah, I would have suspected you could use some of these techniques, like with buildings and everything, to draw your focus in. There may be a row of dark buildings, and right in the middle is this one bright colored building that pulls people's attention. I mean, there's probably 1,000 different ways you could use color to do things like that if you could paint the backdrop. Or even with flats, you might be able to, with simple flats too.
The only place that I really go kind of artsy, and it's only because an artist friend of ours, Bob Clark, who's since passed away, but Bob always said that, two things: Mother Nature weathers for neutral gray, and scenes back in the background have mist and atmosphere between you and them. So anything that you want to send to the background, I take some white Krylon spray paint and I literally spray it. And if you look on this side over here, the trees from about here over are much brighter than the trees here, which look much further away. That's because these trees have had white spray paint sprayed over them, whereas these have not been misted back yet. And these will look much further back, similar to these, once we get the white mist on them. But
yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of towards what David's trying to say there.
Yes, it is. The difference is I'm doing it without being an artist. I'm just taking a can of Krylon spray paint and spraying it up there. I don't have the eye, and this takes real talent to be able to say, well, I need a little more of this or a little more of that color in there to make it look like that. So right. I paint it bright like I've done here, and then I spray it over with the white paint and mist it back. And it tends to work maybe not as well, but very close to as well as what I would do if I was an artist.
Yeah.
And much easier. For me, anyway.
Absolutely. It looks absolutely, now that you mention it, it looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
it does create a different sense of depth, because from this angle,
it's over with a light coat of white. That's all.
Yeah. From this angle, these buildings on the right are much more in our foreground, and the brighter trees go in tune with that, and the buildings up behind you are physically farther away from the camera view, and the background with the trees kind of gives you more of that sense of depth.
Yes. And while we're on it, I'll talk one more thing. Don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can. I'm gonna tip you a little bit here, or actually just turn you around a little bit. This, let's see where I've got it. Here we go. Bob Brown. I don't know if I'm tall enough. I'm an altitude challenge, so I don't know if I can reach that. Bob Brown at the Gazette. I went to his railroad one time years ago, probably 2 or 3 decades ago, and I really liked what he had done, because another thing that John talks about when he talks about painting backgrounds is that you never want to let the people see, the visitors or the operators see, the joint between your real railroad and the painted background or the photographic background. I don't care, whatever you use on the background. You just don't want to see that joint. And right now you can see my joint over here. Okay?
Right.
But if I were to take Bob Brown's magic applicator here and put that in, to me it's absolutely amazing. And let me do a little more so you can see it even a little bit better. But all of a sudden, yeah, that's good enough. You're still in frame, I think, aren't you? Still see that?
Yeah.
All right, let me do this. You see it now. This is the old now. You see it now. You don't.
Big difference.
Not so good. Not so good, but whoop, get up there. Whole lot better, right?
Yeah.
And if I had scenery down here on the bottom, it would be even better yet. So it's the old never let them see the joint between your layout and the background. And I'm going to turn you one more time, this time a little more dramatically. Go around over here. That's not too bad. There we go. This is something else I was going to talk about changing. And it goes back to the Bill's thing about how long I worked on this. Yep, come out a little bit. Okay, I had planned this area in here to be a cemetery, but it wasn't very big, and I didn't like it, and I didn't like the fact that I didn't have enough height here to justify the tunnels. Another thing that Fran asked me to change was all of this front down here. This is now going to be cemetery across here. We had a Mount Moriah Cemetery here in Kansas City, which is famous. It's kind of rolling in the hills around the river. And then we want to come down here, and I want to put in a hard concrete, probably 6 or 8 foot high wall, because that's what was around the cemetery. Then I'm going to take the little gas station that Kent Hurley prints on his 3D printer, and I'm going to make a turn in here for the gas station, and a side over here on the side for where the lift goes up and down. And then I'll turn you a little bit so we can go along, keep up with me as I go here. Where my iPad's laying here is going to be the city park. And I had to make all that so I could get access, so I actually have a lift out here, which will allow me to bring that up, and I can get into my track, which is now down in the pit here. We actually do have a tunnel in Kansas City on the Rock Island, long since abandoned, but nonetheless we do actually have a tunnel, so I have a prototype. Any rate, so that's going to get my track hidden here, and it brings me over to my switching area, which is off to the right of that. But I changed all this around to both raise it up higher and to make a much bigger area so I can get a little bit more cemetery in. The other thing that Fran did was she said, take that city that I had way over on the far side that you may have seen, you talk about it, Larry Patch's episode, and I put all of those along here because my grandmother lived in a stacked neighborhood, I guess, or a tiered neighborhood like this in Kansas City. And I would go down the hill from her house and go to the general store and get things for her. So I wanted a general store down at the bottom, which I've got here. It's a Woodland Scenics one. And I think what I'm going to do actually is shove these buildings down a little bit further, and I'm going to put that new hobby shop, which comes from Menards. It's a lumber area here, or lumber dealer here in the Midwest. they build an O-scale building every Christmas and put it out. I think the guy that owns Menard's actually a three-rail railroader. But at any rate, he puts out some really neat stuff. So I'm going to put the general store in here. I'm going to take that bike shop, the chop shop that I had down, was in the bottoms down here, and I'm going to move it up and put it on the end of this row. So I'll have an entire block of buildings there kind of blocked out, and that'll help block my view of the backs where the railroad meets the background in this scene. But this has been a significant change because none of this was up here in front. I was going to slope all this off and make it kind of grassy area up here to my street. Changed all that around. I think you really have to live with the railroad for a little bit once you get tracks up and kind of feel what the scenery is really going to do. I can imagine it somewhat when I draw it, but sometimes it just doesn't quite fit.
Well, I think to emphasize more on that, Miles, I think the other night with Bill Baronic on, I think he said that his railroad right now is unscenic. It's still the wood frame is up and all the tracks are down, and he's having operating sessions, and he'll probably said most likely do that for 6 months to a year. Until he gets it all straightened out and the way he wants to run it, then start to scenic it. So,
right.
You know, I myself am in the process of doing the same thing. I had the frame up, the layout up, and the tracks down, and I was running it. And now I'm just starting to ballast the track after almost 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Summer to now.
I really think, you know, we talked about that in that same show. I really think you need to run on the tracks, but as soon as you have them right, you need to ballast. And if you noticed, all my tracks, even on this area where I said I was going to change, are ballasted. They're all ballasted underneath this entire tunnel. They're ballasted underneath all of this area over in here. As soon as we got it after that operating session where it was working correctly, I ballasted it so it couldn't move again. And the only thing that has moved on me is the 1 foot area over the street over here by the Stockyards, and I came in yesterday and it was buckled up a little bit. But if I'd had that glued down, it probably would have, you know, pushed on the rails fore and aft of it, and I wouldn't have had even that area buckled up. So I really believe, you know, ballast it.
Yeah, get it down. You're right. You're right.
Fix it and keep it that way.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
And,
exactly. Overall, though, when you panned earlier on the layout itself, it's a pretty sizable layout, but for the size of it, it's, you know, yeah, when you look at it from this, you have the other side and that side, it's pretty walkable, but it gives the illusion that it's a lot bigger, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that your layout is small, but
well, one thing that I really sympathized, they did an episode, I keep going back to Train Masters because I kind of have a close association with them, but they did an episode where they talked about Lionel Strang and a couple of other guys that had built a railroad, and then they found out that they really had too big a railroad. And
right.
I identified with that 100%, because the railroad that I built in Louisville was 22 by 35. It was what I would call the ideal railroad, even better than the one I have here, because it was built on the second floor. It had absolutely no windows. It had a cathedral or a pitched ceiling, and I wrapped them with the compound corners, which was much more complicated because you were doing it at angles that weren't 90 degrees. But the ceiling just towered up over you, and you lost sight of the sky. It was a really great atmosphere. The best thing about it was a come up into, because you came up the steps, which were made like a mine shaft, and I was doing Colorado railroads, so wow, you know, you're coming up into a mine. It really had all of the elements, but it had too much of one element, and that was size.
Really?
We literally spent, I believe, something like 6 years, and when I say we, I really mean that. That's not the royal we, you know, just me. I had anything from 4 to 14 people coming over every Monday night working on the railroad. In order to build that 22 by 35, you become, as the layout owner, the logistics manager. It was, Miles, where do you keep the plaster? Miles, how do you want this mold put on? Miles, where's this tool? Miles, how would you like this done? Miles, how would you do this? And because I need to do this to match up. You spend your entire time going around between the different crews that I had working, and there was never a chance for Miles to put his touch on the railroad other than through supervision.
Right.
And to me, that's a little non-fulfilling.
Yes.
Well, that's really not the entire point of building yourself a railroad. Is watching others do it for you.
That's right.
You know?
I mean, I really loved him, and everybody over there they're all still my dear friends. But I really was losing touch with the one thing that I liked the most, which was my own railroad.
Yeah.
And I always, people would say, "Oh, it's so wonderful that you have people coming over and building your railroad." Yes, it was. But you have to remember one main thing. You have to be willing to accept what they put in your room and be happy with it.
Yeah.
Now, I was in an area at the time when I first started, I have to put this delicately, they had not done much modeling before I arrived. And so I was literally teaching them how to handle molds, how to lay track, etc. And there were several nights when we first started laying plaster that they would come in the next week and they'd say, "What happened to what I did?" Well, I had torn it out because they literally had strata rock, one casting right here and another one right here. Another one over here and another one like this. I mean, they were all over the place. And I said, no. So the second time they came over, I learned on the process too. I had a whole bunch of Bragdon molds, and I took some Krylon spray paint, and I sprayed 2 red stripes on it. And I said, from now on, when you put the molds up, the red stripes go up and down. You turn them sideways. You can turn them 180, so they go this way instead of this way. So, but that makes the strata still going across.
Right.
So I learned, they learned, and we solved the problems, and they had a beautiful railroad. Sidelight, we actually put 7,000 pounds of plaster in that railroad in 7 years.
Wow.
It was all floor-to-ceiling scenery, and it was aisle like I call them maze layouts. Like mine, you had to maze through the thing to get through it. It was pretty spectacular. But
Jimmy in Michigan here is asking, do you have any video of that old layout, your Colorado layout?
I threw one up on one show of the layout that I had in Texas, which was very similar to it.
Okay.
And I might be able to find that and throw it up here.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to throw up on your YouTube channel. This is what I had before. This is what I have now.
Yeah.
It's like you said. I mean, part of redoing this was resizing it too.
Anyway, yeah. And thank you for bringing me back. You brought me back with what you said. I sympathize 100% with Lionel that I had too much and it was too big. Excuse me. The other thing that people don't think about, excuse me, I got the hiccups, is that maintenance then becomes a factor.
Yeah.
Because the layout gets so large. You have so many pieces of equipment and so many connections. I was talking to a friend of mine who's building a little 5x9 railroad for a client down in Texas right now. And I was saying, okay, when you run around that layout, even on a 4x8, and that I was using a 4x8 as an example, you're running approximately, 8 and 8, 16, you're running about 20 feet on a loop. And the client had asked him to make the layout run between 9 in the morning and 5 at night. And I said, well, if you made a circuit once a minute, which would be running very slow on that 20 feet, that's being very generous in my estimation, and you multiply that out times the number of minutes in a day, this guy's going to be running this train, this 0130 train around on this Christmas layout, a mile or so a day. I mean, we're talking a real mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll wear it out quick.
How many trains can hold up to that? And that's the same thing when you make these humongous railroads. The only thing that saves your equipment is that I may not run the same train more than once a night. But if you're like Gil Freitag down in Houston where you operate every week, that's putting a lot of miles on your trains.
Yes, it is.
Gil took every one of his brass engines that he had bought off of the railroad and bought a whole closet full of the Stewart F7s back when they first came out. This is years ago. and he put all F7 Stewarts on his railroad because if the guys wore them out, he didn't care. They were only, you know, $100 or less at that point. But, you know, if they were wearing out his brass engines, they were ruining $300, $600 engines, and repairing brass is really hard. Repairing that plastic is just put a new one on.
Yeah, true, very true.
Yeah, that's true.
So you kind of have to weigh all this, you know, size and usage and whatever factors as you begin to build your railroad. And that's one reason. That's one reason why I went to ON30, is because the Bachmann engines and the engines that I buy now are a fraction of what I was paying for my ON3 brass when I was actually trying to do the Denver Rio Grande and Denver South Park. It's a whole lot easier on my pocketbook.
Yeah,
especially in retirement.
Yeah, absolutely true. That's a big factor in in your decision.
Anyway, I was sad to lose that railroad. I was sad to move away from my friends. Fran actually got the job here in Kansas City, which is why we came back. But I was not sad to be supported in the manner in which I wanted to become accustomed. So, hey, you know, married a railroader, and then she supports me. What a deal!
Who's got it better than you, Miles? Who's got it better than you? I look around and see no one.
Yeah.
Andy Crawford says, however, pictures or artwork are two-dimensional, and you have an expectation of where the viewer will stand. On a layout, it's a 3 dimensions, and it's much harder to control where the viewer stands. So not all effects or techniques are easy to translate.
That's 110% true, especially if you're doing building flats where you're trying to create some kind of a depth. It's extremely hard to do that. Let me leave frame and I'll come back in 2 seconds here and show you. There was an example when you first came in the room over here. Oops, crash, boom.
Boom! We didn't need that anyway.
Didn't need that building anyway. Walters makes these guys, as do a lot of manufacturers, you know, in HO, and we always preach that you could take the DPM flats, the modular pieces from Woodland Scenics, and a lot of them you can cut in half and make this 1.5 to 2 inch thick building. But the problem is when I put this up here against the wall, that's all I have is that 1.5 inches. So do I then paint some perspective? There was an article on one of the magazines where the guy was putting the flat here and then he was painting the vanishing point, you know, on the side to make the building look like you were standing over here. But yes, if I walk over to the other side and this is a flat and I still see that going off, it's kind of like, well, what? Yeah. So yes, you do need to control it, and it becomes an extremely obvious thing to your eyes if you're trying to use mirrors. You really have to control the view of the viewer when you use a mirror, because first of all, you don't want him to look down under an overpass and into it and see himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to look over to the side and I want to see a reflection of something else, you know, that looks like that road continues and goes on. So.
Yeah.
Hey Barry, could we do the what do you call it, the giveaways?
Yes, sir. We'll go back and reset all that.
And give Miles a bit of a break there to get his whistle wetted.
That would be good.
Well, we'll start right here. Go back and bring up my screen share.
Just want to let you guys know out there that YouTube Model Builders is also brought to you by the E-Magazine, our free online magazine, and this magazine came out this past weekend, and I have to say it's really a good magazine. It's the November-December issue, and JD, Blaine and Harry and Jack and Barry did a great job of putting this magazine together, and the stories on there are really good. It's a Christmas thing and nostalgic. You guys should, if you don't have a subscription, it's free. Go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com and you can pick it up. And also we have the live chat and presentation hangouts on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Dude, Barry and Mike, who do the tech end, and John and Troy and Gino, and they have presentations on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They alternate. Thursday is mostly John. It's a pretty good hangout, and so the other one's on Tuesday, and of course we have the YouTube Model Builders live show. And in the coming months, just a little plug here, we've got some special things lined up as for the YouTube Model Builders live show and for the YouTube Model Builders and the Hangout presentations. On the 17th of this past month, we brought online Miles, Hale, and Bill Baronic, the track planner. They'll be doing a show every other month. I think in January, Bill starts the track planner, and what he's going to do is basically troubleshoot. If you have any kind of trouble, an idea that you're starting a layout, planning a layout, you have an idea, something's not working, Bill's going to be available to share his knowledge on track planning and to help, you know, get along with that. And it's free. It's all free. And then the next month in February, we're going to have Miles, and Miles is doing something a little different on his Hangouts. What he'll be doing is he'll be visiting different layouts of prominent modelers, and he'll be presenting their layouts and talking to them about how they got to where they got and what they're doing and where they expect to go. And we have our show, the YouTube Model Builders live show, the third Saturday of every month, and come check us out. And we have other things online, but we're going to mention them in December. We're going to hold you off, keep you in suspense. We got some big things coming down the pike, boys. So stay tuned for some good stuff. And our giveaways tonight are going to be pretty good. We got highways and byways, road striping kit, a package of vinyl stripes for your model railroads. They, as you see in that picture, the railroad crossings and the solid lines and everything. You get a package of that in HO scale, and that's by highwaysandbyways.com. Check them out. They got great products, and they hold up under weathering. If you put them down, they hold up under weathering. And from our good friends from Central Valley Model Works, they have this 150-foot HO scale punch plate bridge. Also, if you're an N scaler and you want to get this, it's also an N scale as well. And they'll be giving this away. That picture you see there will be the actual bridge that you will win. And they're from Central Valley Model Works. And our good friend from Long Shadow Model Trees, Bob Lacey, is giving away 6 HO or N-scale handmade oak trees this year. Bob makes a great product. I just recently ordered some from him, and they'll be going up. And I'll be doing a video, Bob, if you're online and listening. I'll be doing a video of your show, of your trees. And who else? And from Precision Design Company, they have joint bars in HO and N scale. This is a great product, and some people who I do know who've gotten them and who have purchased them and weathered them said they're very realistic, and they add to the rail itself. And as you know, on one of our Hangouts, we had James Lincoln on. And James Lincoln talked about track, and he talked exclusively about track and said that track was a scenery part of the railroad as well. And this really amplifies it, the joint bars. So that's from Precision Design Company in HO and N scale. If you wanted an N scale, we don't have a slot for it on the thing, but if you win it, just put it in HO. If you want it in N scale, just let me know. And we'll see what we can do, okay? We definitely will get it in N scale to you, okay? And from Dave's Decals, model decals and stuff, your choice if you win this is you go to daveart.net and you pick out 2 sheets, any 2 sheets on Dave's Decals, and he will get them out to you ASAP.
And also, Bill, when the time comes, here's how everybody goes to win. When we decide we're going to do the giveaway, you go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com, and at the bottom of the menu here, go to the live show giveaway entry form, and we will give you the password and activate the form, and then you put in your information, and you'll be entered to win.
And now we're back live with Miles Hale.
Wish I had more to say. I changed cameras on you so you get a little different view. This is the rustic end down there.
When Miles, let me ask you. Let me just ask you a question. On when doing scenery, how much is it? How much planning? I know that you plan the railroad on paper to get the track down,
Yeah.
But how much planning is there in the scenery end of it? Is it you set up the configuration of your construction of your layout, and then you draw the track plan, and while you're drawing the track plan, are you envisioning what the scenery is going to be, or is it just, okay, as I go section to section, this is what I'd like to do, or is it something that's pre-planned?
Well, I don't want to steal anything from Bill Bronick, but we kind of discussed that, and he's said it several times too. When he talks to somebody about building the railroad, he says, send me a list of the buildings that you have, and he tries to incorporate those buildings in. And to a certain extent, I did that here because I had some buildings already made. The peninsula that, let's see, let me go to this camera, and then I can move around, and you can kind of see what's going on. I'll move the camera a little bit here and show you. I want to kind of hold this other peninsula till another show, but I'll cheat and show it to you now a little bit. Yeah, it's not too bad there. Okay. Yep, come on. Change cameras. Thank you. Okay, so this peninsula here actually was built as the very first railroad that I had when I first moved back here to Kansas City. I had lost the railroad, of course, in Louisville, and I wanted someplace to put my buildings, and I wanted some way to switch. So this layout was actually made, or these two modules were made to be a place where I could go to switch until I got something else made. We realized that the first house we moved into here was not going to work for a railroad, so I built these modules. And I still had to modify them when I put them in here. I rounded the tracks to make them fit, but nonetheless, I had this building, which was in the Inner magazine probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it is, in my opinion, an absolute piece of genius work. Absolutely has nothing to do with me. It was designed by Laurel Joyner, and I simply copied the building that he had on his railroad when I made this Sunshine Biscuit. Sunshine Biscuit Company is actually here in Kansas City, and they make all kinds of things that you eat. At any rate, what Laurel did, Laurel was an architect, and he designed this building so that you could have a building with almost zero footprint. And I don't know if I'll be able to show you without moving you around. I don't want to make you sick when I do it, but this track right here on this side is only about 1.5 inches or 2 inches from the track that comes in on the back side. So I have two tracks that are almost parallel. They're almost yard spacing. The only difference that I have in here is I have 1.5 inches what looks to be loading dock, but this wall at the back of the loading dock is the wall on the back side of the building. And what he did was he took this enormous headpiece here on the part of the building to hide the fact that there's a track back here, and this big headstock piece that hides the fact that there's a track over here. So when I'm standing here, I see a track going behind the building, but it looks like it's going behind this big headpiece. If I'm over here, I can't even see that other track over there at all. It's a great job of illusion. But at any rate, I started off with this railroad, and I started off with buildings that I already knew that I had, and I planned those tracks in to fit. I planned the tracks for Luxon down here, and I should move the stuff I moved before out of the way so you can see better. If you can see it at all, and I'm not sure. I have tracks here switching into both the front and the back of the building. So I did plan these for the buildings I already had. When I started building or doing the plans for the railroad in here, I tried to plan for, first of all, the yard, which is on the far side, and I'll save that for a later time. And then I tried to plan the peninsulas so that they looked like they could handle the cars that I wanted to handle. I was more interested in making 5 locations so I could have 5 people working. So rather than design buildings, I designed workstations and tracks that would kind of interact with each other. My main yard feeds this peninsula, and it also feeds the peninsula for the Stockyard. the other yard on the far end down here, the end yard, and the one on the far end feed that other peninsula and the far yard itself. So I set it up more for operational capability than I did for buildings that I actually had at the time that I started. A little different concept. I don't normally do that. I would normally have designed to fit the buildings that I had, but in this case, I didn't. I designed it more with the operation in mind, and not so much with buildings that I already had. So I think you can do it either way. Again, no way is 100% perfect. It's whatever way works for you and makes you happy. So
right.
At any rate.
Mitch Russell asks, if space is allowed, could you use an N-scale structure to give a forced perspective on an HO layout?
You bet. If you look at, and I don't know if you can even find them anymore, the old DPM catalogs. I shot all the photographs in those DPM catalogs when I worked at Woodland Scenics, and I was constantly taking the HO buildings. When I would build, they would have a thing like cars, auto parts, that I would be shooting on the street, and behind that would be either a modular of O-scale or a modular of N-scale, depending on how I wanted to force the perspective. If I wanted to make it look like the big city back behind, lots of times I would put actually O-scale back behind it, and that would dwarf the HO building up front. And if you look at the catalog, at the way the photographs are done, it's a mix-mash sometimes between scales. But it's whatever the camera saw that looked good. And your eye, the eye of your viewer, is no different than the camera. If you can gain the space to set an N-scale or a Z-scale building back up on a hillside and make it look like it has depth, hey, do it. It really makes for a great illusion and a great feeling of depth in the scene.
Yeah, I saw that on, I think it was Arnie Hall's layout, Bin Haven Railroad up in Massachusetts or upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And he had when you came down the steps, he had a beautiful small town scene and a lake, and at the back of the lake he had a small N-scale boat and a few N-scale buildings, and it was only 30 to 40 inches deep, maybe no more than 3, but he had a line of trees back there with the building and the boats near it, and it really made the lake look much bigger. And definitely achieved the result of giving added depth to the scene.
Oh yeah, it really does, and it works. The eye believes it.
Yeah.
Ray Bobel says he has N-scale on one hill of my HO layout, and he says he also uses N-scale cars and trucks. That definitely would give it a forced perspective at a distance.
Yes, on that original layout that I did in Texas, I did a lot of S-scale buildings and cars set back up a little bit, and just that little bit of change in size made a great illusion of depth.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Mix the
O-scale.
Oh, yeah.
Howard Skippard says the pictures on the right of the scene are distracting while Miles is talking. Mr. Skipper, unfortunately, Barry and I have to have our ugly mugs on the thing here.
Yeah, there is no way to get rid of them.
We try to stay as still as possible and do less movement while Miles is talking or any other guest is talking. Unfortunately, it's a Google thing. I can place a picture up there of a steam engine, but unfortunately...
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
that's the way it goes. Please try not to pay attention to my ugly mug. You know?
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's right.
It's unfortunate. I understand what you're saying, Howard. It sometimes can be distracting, and we do apologize for that. But it's the way Google is set up on the live show and on the Hangouts. It shows you the bottom half of who's ever on the screen. So that's why we try to limit it to 2-3 guests. Barry's the technical director and go-to guy, and I'm just a talking head that absolutely knows nothing, but I got a pretty face, so they put me.
You're a little talking head right now, Bill.
You know.
It's really hard for me because I'm working off the cameras and I've got the computer over to the side, which is why I keep looking over here to see what you guys are doing. But without you to read the questions, I'd be kind of lost because I can't see them from where I am.
No, that's quite all right. Howard makes a very good point. I mean, I understand exactly what he's saying, so I wanted to address that. Nickel Plate Road, 765 Rail Fan says, love the magazine. You guys are doing a great job on it. Well, thank you, Nickel Plate Road.
Absolutely.
You know, thank you.
And JD and the team keep banging them out of the park.
Yeah.
I think I added him to us. One of my friends here just this last week.
Yeah, actually, when we sent out this month's magazine, I noticed we're at almost 700 active subscribers.
You got a seal in there? How many times have I told you not to take the seal from the aquarium home?
Not
I
me.
can't help it. I like to be,
Barry.
but she's a big loudmouth monkey.
Miles, what is the best for you personally? What is the best to you? Do you, I mean, overall, do you like operating, or is it the scene building, or what's your favorite aspect of your model railroad? Because you're a hobbyist and you're a model.
I like people.
You what?
I like people.
Okay.
It doesn't make any difference to me if we come over and we have an operating session, if we come over and we have a work session together, or, you know, if we go to convention together. I just like the friends that we make from being in model railroading. And I should add to what you said at the very start. I was going to wait till we got a little further along, and this is a good time to do it. I have an email address that's info@Model Railroading University. And if anybody ever has a question, doesn't make any difference what, send the question off to me, and if it's not pornographic, I'll probably answer it. But at any rate, info@modelrailroadinguniversity.com. And I'm always glad to answer questions. I always thought it was neat when we had all kinds of techie guys that would come in and teach us computer things, you know, because they would give their email address and you could write to them after they were done. Of course, they were probably unemployed a week after the class was over, but that's beside the point. I hope to be around longer than that. So if you have questions, please write to me and let me know, and I will answer them.
Absolutely. That's very good. That's.
And while we're on it, you may not have another question up yet.
I do. I actually do. From Curtis Hunt, he asked, well, just to clarify, just to run down, Bob Lacey says, the only way to build your lifetime railroad, retire. You can start a small business to help support your railroad. True. And from Curtis Hunt, he writes, what do you like better, oil or latex paint, and what is the difference in them as far as looks? Well,
the only thing I've ever really used is either the spray paints or latex. On the background back here, the walls obviously are rolled with a flat latex blue. We use one called Bonnet Blue. Color is 1792, can't forget it. It's from Sherwin-Williams. We really like it because no color on your background should ever have any green in it. Green comes from the ground, the trees, but no green in the sky. So it's a pure blue, Bonnet Blue. The trees are all latex acrylics, straight out of the tube. I don't have any up here where I could show, but I could pull one pretty quick. But it's just light green oxide, my absolute favorite color in the world, hooker's green, and a dark brown, and that's how I paint the trees. And then the white of the clouds and the white overspray we mentioned once already is simply Krylon flat white. And you can also use Krylon's primer. So I have spray lacquer up here. Actually, Krylon is not an enamel, it's a lacquer, which is one reason why it dries so fast. So I have a mixture of latex and spray paint up here, which a lot of people will tell you will never mix, but I've had walls up for 25 and 30 years now, and there's absolutely no problem with mixing the acrylic and the lacquer from Krylon, mainly because we spray the lacquer so thinly and so little of it that it really doesn't make any difference. There's very little up there to show the white on the clouds. There's very little on here to show the depth in the trees. But I have never used oil.
The different,
go ahead.
you know, the difference between the latex and the oil, as far as their looks, you can thin. First of all, latex is a lot easier to work with, and it smells a lot better as it dries, and it dries pretty quickly to the touch within an hour or two. Complete thorough drying is about 24 hours as it cures. Oil-based paint can be thin, but you need a lacquer thinner to thin it or a solvent to put in it. And when you put oil-based paint on, it goes on a lot thicker. And oil-based is used in primary industrial settings, sort of painting metal fire doors, piping, anything like that. That it's heat-resistant paint. But the oil goes on pretty thick, and it lays thick and heavy, and it smells, and it takes a very, very, very long time to dry.
The artist oils, my understanding is they hardly ever really actually dry.
Yes, to a certain degree on that. I was a house painter before, structural painter before I worked for the city. So, I used to do kitchens, in the housing projects and stuff like that. And it was all oil-based. And I'd go back 2 days later, and that oil was still tacky. So
plus it's also got a much more glossy finish. You can't really get a flat oil paint.
No, you can't. There's really no flat in oil. So to use the oil is kind of working against yourself.
Yeah, and Curtis asked, now how about do you do the same for models? And you really can't use oil on any kind of plastic model. Other than, like you said, sometimes the artist oil paints can be used properly for weathering, but that's about as far as it goes. You could not paint a model, plastic model with oil paints.
Yeah.
As far as painting the models or whatever, my easy out is to do it with a Krylon spray paint. The ruddy brown primer makes a great brick and a great rust.
Yes, it does.
Flat black.
Yes, absolutely the best.
Great. Their gray primer works absolutely great. And then if you want to get really sophisticated, then you get yourself an airbrush and you spray either the lacquer paints or spray the acrylic paints that are out nowadays. I understand there's now a paint out for us to use that has acetone as a solvent in it. I haven't tried that one yet. But there's all kinds of things out there because Flocal kind of went away, unfortunately.
And that's the True Color you're talking about, right, Miles? I think
I think that's right. True Color is the one with the acetone.
Yeah.
William Gorman asked, Miles, when painting your background trees, what do you think about adding flocking to the wet paint to add a 3D look to it before adding more trees in front of the background?
I have not tried it, but I would not think that there would be a problem with doing that, and it might actually help to add a little depth, a little body to it. I usually paint them fairly thick so they have a little bit of texture to them. The best thing I can suggest is to go to PBS and watch William Alexander and Bob Ross. That's how I learned how to do it. That's how John learned how to do it. When it comes to painting the trees. Now, John came up with the idea for the stencils for the clouds, but everything else that we paint, the hills, the trees, everything else, came from the PBS painters. And those guys, I think, almost exclusively work in acrylics with artist brushes. And wow, what a terrific thing that you now have a new hobby store to go to called an art store, and look at all the tools that you can buy and add to your collection,
True.
Absolutely.
The model railroader with the most tools wins. So go buy.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Joe G. Where's Joe G's question? Joe G. asks, what's the minimum height a view break should be?
Above eye level.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Hawks of HO Layout asks, Miles, can I get in touch with you about your camera setup, Sony, GoPro, and webcam?
Sure.
Yes. Good.
Just write me to info@modelrailroadinguniversity.com.
But okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Miles.
If we have a couple of minutes at the end, I was going to ask Barry and Bill if you want to. I'll put the camera up and I'll kind of talk about how I set everything up for tonight because I had all the cameras.
We can do that while we're processing the giveaways. It's
Okay.
11:30 now, so in a few minutes we'll be looking at starting up the
Okay, I didn't know the
giveaway.
time had gone that fast. I'm having to get a time.
I know.
But anyway, yeah, I'd be glad to. I
But getting back to Joe G's question, the view break, that should be a little bit above eye level?
Yeah, it wants to be at least a little bit above eye level. When I did the floor to ceiling mountains, I actually had an 8-foot ceiling, and I was running those mountains up to about 7.5 feet. You run a danger when you run things up too close, and let me go to the other camera. Okay, I'm sitting over here. You can see the big Stockyards building over there. It is above my eye level, and it's actually above the eye level probably of a 6-footer or better. Like I say, I'm only about 5'9". But basically what I like to do when I try to create these looks is I want to make it so that you feel like you've gone somewhere.
Right.
The idea of the maze railroad where you wander around the aisles is that as I showed you at the very start of the show, that you can't look across and take in the entire railroad at one time. I want you to be in an aisle, a street, or a canyon, and that's all you see is the one street or the one canyon that you were in at that time. You've got to go around the mountain or around the corner to get to another view and see what's going on. It's like Bill was saying, you want the wow factor, and as much as possible, you want that big wow factor at the start, but you want to continue to lead them through. Joe Puccio, an old friend of mine, had a great adage that he always talked about, and that was you want chunklies and pricklies. And he was talking specifically about buildings, and I'll tilt you down here real quick and show you because this is a pretty good example. This is a building from Pat Harriman, the guy that does all the buildings in the middle of the End of Morning magazine. And, oops, come out a little bit. This is right out of one of his books. But what I have here is mass, but I also have all of this detail in the roof, my 3 stacks up here. I've got guy wires over here. So once I attract you to the building in the mass, then I keep your eye there. We want to do the same thing as we go through the railroad. Because what I want you to do is, yes, I want you to see big buildings, but I also want to keep you walking in so that you look for more and more buildings as you go deeper into the railroad.
And there's silence.
Yes. Not supposed to have silence on air.
No. But that's a very good explanation, and I hope, Joe, you got that. Jim, forgive me, Jim, I can't pronounce your last name. I'm a New York, Brooklyn guy, and I'll just mess it up. He says, glad I followed some advice and caught this show tonight. Looks like I'll be here whenever I can. Super job, fellows. Well, thank you, James. Appreciate it. Come back every third Sunday of the month in the Hangouts on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Well, and just as a quick plug, February the 9th, I'll be at Larry Alfred's Railroad. We're going to take this show on the road next year.
Yes.
And I'm going to go visit some other railroaders and see how they built their layouts. So be sure and turn in to February 9th, Larry Alfred.
Yeah, I just mentioned that earlier. Joe G continues with his sayings, my wife is 4'10" and I'm 5'10", so I have to make things shorter for her, so I didn't want to make it too short. Well, that makes sense.
Well, that's true.
As far as layout height goes now, that's a different story.
Right. I was just going to say
this railroad, I purposely made this railroad down. It's only about 39 inches. It's just barely above my waist height. Because if I had not done that, I would not have had room to put in that big Stockyards building. I would not have had room to put in the grain elevator, Laurel's building, or Luxon, because I get too close to the ceiling, and that's one thing I should have talked about when you ask about view blocks. If you get too close, then the ceiling is the sky is too close to the view block top. So you always want to try and keep that ceiling away as much as possible, away from whatever your view block is.
Right. When I was building the my railroad, the South Brooklyn Railroad, in the layout room, I originally built it for 36 inches, and I had it built at 36 inches. And my only reason for building it for 36 inches was I had a double hung window right in the middle on the back wall, the outer wall. And Bill Baronic designed the layout. And at one point he came in and he said, listen, that 36 inches is not going to work because I stand at 6'2", 6'2".
Yeah.
And he says, that's not going to work for you. He says, you're going to hurt. You're going to get your back. You're going to get frustrated. He says, you got to bring it up 7 inches more to about 42 inches. You got to bring it up to countertop height. And we kind of went back and forth on it, but I'm glad that I listened to him. I had to make, I had to cut some 7.5-inch rises and then place them. And it turned out to be it turned out a twofold reason. It turned out to be a better idea, and it worked because once it got raised, I realized how easy it was for me to work on the layout now as I'm working, laying track, electrical work. It also gave me from that 36.5 inches, and I raised it up to 42, it gave me a little window box right here. So when I ran all the electrical around, I was now able to sit down, as you're doing right now, and I could actually look in and work, and work underneath it and work on the electrical. So it turned out to be, again, like you said earlier, it's what works for you.
Yes.
So that I believe is,
And I did an article in RMC some, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 years ago now, and had pictures of Fran standing there, and we talked about layout heights and reach, because here on this railroad, if I'm leaning against the 39-inch, I can reach easily to the back. If I put this railroad up here at 42 or so, my reach would be cut to where I could only get about 2/3 back.
Right, exactly.
And the other thing we talked about was, okay, if you want to raise that railroad up, that does not necessarily mean that the operator needs to stay at a given height.
True.
There are a lot of places in Louisville where we actually raised the floor. I built a platform and an incline, and we actually raised the operators up. So the layout was up higher because we had come up grades, but I wanted them to be able to reach over, so I raised them as well. And they were still only at 36, even though the railroad had come up much higher in relation to the overall room height.
Yeah.
So you can change that stuff around to fit as you need to make your operators be able to reach and do what they need to do on your railroad.
Right. There's so much that goes into building a layout. I mean, people that go out and say, guys that watch the YouTube Model Builders show, the hangouts and the live and the informal hangouts and the live show. Everybody wants to have that, that go-to layout. And they start building that layout, they kind of get halfway through it, and I think what happens is some of them realize that it's not, everybody wants that 25-yard yard track.
Yep.
And then they realize they can't fit 25 tracks on 6-inch space. And they're like, wow, wait a minute.
I'm sorry, but there is one element that will be in every railroad, in every scale that's ever built as a model railroad, and that's compromise.
Yes.
Yeah. And you might as well put that word in your vocabulary, because that's the way of the world.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's like right here, David Cole mentions he's 6'7", so do I need to keep my layout lower for others? Yeah, and if you're having people come into your layout and operate and work on it with you, you may have to accommodate them as a compromise.
Well, you could build what's known as an apple box, kind of like staging area around.
Yeah.
You had in TV productions, you can build it. Listen, when I worked for the Transit Authority, I did a movie with. I was on a set. They were using a movie with Sylvester Stallone in it, and anybody who's never seen Sylvester Stallone in person, he's short, very short.
Like my short.
Yes, you're short, and he was doing a scene with another actor, Dylan McDermott, who's 6'2". And what they did was they had Dylan McDermott stand on the street, and they built this platform for Sylvester Stallone. Wow. And when they walked down, Sylvester Stallone was walking on this raised platform, and he was the same height as Dylan McDermott. So if you're 6'7", Dave, you can build your layout for your accommodations, but you'd have to consider building a sort of a kind of pull-out ramp or step thing for your friends to come over when they were physically, vertically challenged.
Yeah, because you got me by about 11 inches, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a really good friend down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who built a beautiful railroad. He was a master photographer, had all kinds of photographic books that were out in publication for the public to buy. And he built his upper level of his layout at about 72 inches.
Oh, that's over my head.
At 5'9", yeah, I mean, he did all this work. I was told it was beautiful, but about 75 or 80% of the people that came into his railroad never saw it because you couldn't. It's too tall.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, Jim gave me the correct correct pronunciation. La Magdalene.
La Magdalene.
La Magdalene. Yo, Jim. I'm going with Jim.
That's not quite as easy to say as delicatessen, though, right, Phil?
No, delicatessen, Jim, is the only big word I know. Yours is maybe the second, and maybe pharmacy.
There you go.
Great name.
Absolutely. Well, here's one for Curtis Hunt again about when we were talking about the paint. He's mentioned he's used True Color and had to use 2 bottles to get the cover and was not very happy with it. Touch-ups were so hard to do. I'm just wondering, Curtis, if you used any kind of primer under that, because I was at an NMRA clinic today, and the one guy was Mike Baker from Nick and Nora Designs was doing a painting clinic, and he stressed for especially something like that is that primer, 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 primer under everything you paint, like in your locomotives, and always working from lighter to darker colors, because primer also helps promote your paint adhesion. So maybe that's part of the problem if you didn't primer, which I do not know, but that's something you should consider if you did not, and maybe give it another try.
Yeah, I may make a suggestion. Whenever I get, I'm a big Walters Cornerstone guy. I mean, scratch building is good. It's just a little bit above my pay grade. But whenever I get a Walters plastic model or any kind of plastic model, the first thing I do when I take it out of the box, first thing I do is I hit it with the gray primer. I just knock that shine, that plastic shine right off it. Let it sit for a day and dry, and then I go back, and then I figure out what I'm going to do. Because that plastic, when you're building a model and you really, what in your mind's eye, you got this kind of like reality of what you think your model should look like. And when you build it either straight out of the box or you're scratch building it and you're not using the right formula for the dyes and the thing, and then you build it and you got this shiny piece and it doesn't look like you thought it would look, and it never. Why doesn't it ever look like the photograph that they have on the box? That's what gets me.
Photoshop.
Is that what?
Exactly? Yeah.
Yeah, Nabil, I want to ask you.
Sure.
This helps?
Yeah, I hit it with.
You said you hit it with the Krylon.
That I do. How did you? Were you there? Listen. First of all, I want to straighten something out for everybody that's listening. Those stories that my wife tells about me are not true. They're not. They're fabricated. Okay? I just want to clear the air.
No, they're not.
Oh, you hear her? No, they're not. You hear her in the background? See?
Yeah.
Georgianne, you don't have to cover for him anymore.
Ugh. Lots. Yeah. Anyway, where what? Model railroad. That's where.
Yes.
The fun, greatest hobby in the world.
The only other thing I could say to Curtis, like Mike was mentioned today, light to dark paint layers. So if you try to spray a lighter color over a darker one, that could also be the reason you had to use multiple coats. So, see what, just try it out again. Try it with a primer under it, or watch which way you're doing your colors and see what happens. It may work out for you. Hope it does. Well, it's 11:41, Bill. You want me to go get the
Yeah, why don't we do
giveaway page set up, and then when we're
that?
ready, we'll let everybody know.
Yeah, you can get the giveaway. We can do one more announcement on the.
Yeah, you get that set up first.
Jim writes, "Yup." Jim, welcome to the crazy, wacky world of YouTube model builders. I'm Big Bill, and that's Barry Rosier. Welcome to the craziness. You're gonna have a lot of fun, Jim. You're gonna like it here, really. It's a free content. We give it away for nothing. You're gonna love it here, Jim. Really, we have a lot of fun. We put the F word back in model railroad, right, Miles?
Fun.
So we're gonna do the giveaways now. What are we?
Yeah, one sec. I'm gonna go in and log in here.
And in the meantime, just want to thank all you guys out there. We're coming up on the end of the year. We're in November. Next week is Thanksgiving. You know, so I hope everyone's gonna have a happy and joyous and blessed Thanksgiving.
I really appreciate everybody watching. It's a whole lot more fun when I have questions rather than me standing here having to talk all the time. So
well, yeah.
I really appreciate it.
No, I know, and I appreciate these guys, you know, taking the time to ask the questions and everything. And I know that,
Right.
you know, with the holiday coming up next week, everybody's probably busy. The wife probably wants you to go food shopping at Stop and Shop, Krause's and whatever, and you guys put your foot down and said, no, I'm staying home to watch YouTube Model Builders live.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go through our giveaways, and then we'll let everybody know how to win.
Well, how to enter to win.
And how to enter to win. Yes. Alrighty.
Well, here we go with from Highways and Byways. We got a road striping kit in HO scale, and it's a good package of vinyl strips for your model railroad. As you see the picture in there, that's exactly what you'll get in the package, and you can weather it once you put it down. Gino Sharp, before he went to before he went to O scale, he had an HO Birmingham Southern Railroad. And he put this Highways and Byways product down, and he weathered the heck out of it, and it stayed true. It did stay true, so it's a good product. It's from highwaysandbyways.com, and that will be one of the prizes we'll be giving away tonight. The second thing is from Central Valley Model Works. They're giving away this 150-foot HO scale punch plate bridge. The bridge that you see in the photograph will be the bridge that you will receive in the mail from them, and so you can enter at the end of this thing. Barry's going to show us how you can enter into the thing, but this will be the bridge that you'll get from Central Valley Model Works. And from our good friend Long Shadow Model Trees, Bob Lacey, he's giving away 6 HO or N scale handmade oak trees, and he'll be doing that. He's been doing that for quite a while with us, and he's been with us since the very conception of the show, so thank you, Bob, for that. And he has a great product. I know I said it earlier, and I know I'm giving a shameless plug to the guy. I purchased 10 of them. I purchased 10, and nothing was given. Nobody on YouTube Model Builders Live staff gets anything for anything. Or we pay. No such thing as a free lunch here. But great stuff, and I'm going to do a video on it soon, Bob, so you'll see.
Yeah.
And from our good friend Bill from Precision Design Company, we have these joint bars in HO. Anybody who's ever had that, some guys I know that put these on, absolutely great stuff. It absolutely adds a realism to your track, and he'll be giving away this in HO as well as in N scale. If you want him in N scale, we only have it because we only had room on the sheet for HO. But if you win it and you're an N scaler, let me know that, and you know, we'll get that sent out to you as well from joint bars.
I think the same goes for the punch plate bridge, right, Bill?
Yes, absolutely, N scale as well. And from Dave Decals, models, decals, and stuff, your choice of 2 sheets. If you win this tonight, just go to daveart.net, pick out 2 sheets, and any of the sheets he has, not just model railroading, he has tons and tons of good stuff. Just pick out any 2 sheets to your liking, and he will get them sent out to you ASAP.
All right. So,
well, just before you go there, let me make one before you go there. When we do this, if you guys could send me your complete, if you win, whoever wins this, if you could send me your complete address, home address, so that I can get it to the gentlemen who are sponsoring these prizes and get your prize out to you with the scale that you want it in, it would be great. You can send it to South Brooklyn Railroad, South Brooklyn @gmail.com. Attention, Big Bill. So it's South Brooklyn BKLYN @gmail.com.
Very good to know that, Bill.
I'll be sending you out emails anyway, but it just makes my life a lot easier. So I'm lazy.
But here's how we all win tonight. Everybody go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com, and on the pull-down menu here at the bottom, you will see the live show giveaway entry form. So you go there, fill in all your information, and don't tell anybody, but the super double secret probation password tonight is scenery, all lowercase, SCENERY. And that's all there is to it, folks. Go here, click on the entry form, fill in your info, put in that double probation super secret password. Again, it's scenery, all lowercase.
So Miles, you're getting ready for any upcoming shows? I know you're doing the Amherst show.
Yes, we didn't show you in the lounge. We kind of was always behind the camera, but Fran packs a pallet 4 feet by 4 feet, 6 feet high, with about 600 pounds of stuff on it, because we have all the kits for all of our hands-on. And this year we're doing 20 hands-on clinics and 40 clinics overall on Thursday and Friday. And then she does another 6 clinics over Saturday and Sunday at the show itself. And again, those are for about 50 people at a time. We do 30 people at a time on Thursday and Friday. But it's an absolutely fantastic show. It's a great way to learn if you want to come and spend the time. That Thursday, Friday time slot is before the regular show, so you're not taking away from your show time. And the really cool part is you get a free breakfast, free lunch provided by the Sheraton Hotel, and you get 2 free passes to the Amherst Train Show, all for coming and being a part of the Amherst Model Railroad University clinic program. And none of the money comes to any of us as instructors. It all goes to the Amherst Society. I have been with them now for almost 3 decades doing clinics. Fran and the rest of the crew have come in probably, I think they've been over there over 20 years now. But we all have a true belief, and we know that the Amherst Society gives all of their profit back to children's hospitals and other organizations, including the NMRA. It all goes back and benefits either the local community or other philanthropic organizations that need, not philanthropic, other charitable organizations that need those donations. So it's a great cause for us to work for. It's an absolutely fantastic venue to go to. It is arguably, and I think it really is, the largest train show in North America. Can't say enough about it. You need to go to it. I'm prejudiced, of course, but nonetheless, I still think it's the biggest show and the best show that you could possibly go to. Amherst in Springfield, Massachusetts.
I can totally echo what you're saying there. Ever since I've been going to that show,
Barry's also an instructor for us, so don't listen to him. Just come, okay?
Yeah, well, I'm a newbie this year. Me and Mike are. So
one of our first-time instructors, but I guarantee you will never have a better time model railroading than you will at that show.
That's an absolutely enjoyable show. For us, it's 4 days in model railroad heaven. It really is. How would you say? 750,000 square feet of floor space, Miles?
That's right. 750,000 square feet of exhibit and cellars, and it's just absolutely phenomenal.
At this, we're talking about this. If I may take a few minutes here, I would just like to give an update on Model of Man Mike.
Ah, yes.
And his situation with his son Skylar. Scott, as you all know, Model of Man Mike had to drop out due to an illness with his youngest son Skylar, who is about 23 years old and developed testicular cancer. And Mike had to leave South Korea, and his wife got a compassion transfer from the United States Army to come back. And he's been back now for a while, and I had the opportunity to speak with Mike on the phone last month, and I had the opportunity also and the great pleasure of speaking to his son Skylar. And I have to tell you, that is one brave guy. That is one brave guy. Cancer basically sucks. We all know that. It has touched someone in our lives. It has probably affected someone close to us than ever. But I have to tell you that Skylar is one brave guy, because he got on the phone and he goes through at least 10 hours, 11 hours of chemo treatment. And because of his cancer and how advanced it actually was in stage 4. And because he's so young, he's 23, from what I understand from Skylar and from Mike himself, what they did was they treated it very, very aggressively. Whereas someone my age, they would have not given me full strength of chemo. But because of his age and because of his health, he was in pretty good health. They treated it very aggressively and gave him a high dosage of chemo. And it's safe to say that the chemo helped, because what it did was it shrunk the tumors that were inside of him. And now they're talking to an oncologist surgeon to go in there and remove them. So things are looking pretty good. They actually gave him like 5% to survive for the end of the year. And now they've raised it up. I don't really know. I'm not going to elaborate on what the percentage is, but they've given him a bigger percentage now because he's fought it and he's doing due diligence of taking care of himself now. So, and Mike is, is home. He's a lot more relieved. The stress isn't so big. He got 5,000 pounds of his home stuff from South Korea sent, sitting in the middle of his living room now. And he's trying to sort through that, and things are starting to come back to whatever normal is, whatever we think normal is for him, and hopefully he'll be back. So our prayers and our thoughts go out to Mike, to his lovely wife Tina, and certainly to Skylar, and we wish him all the best. We really do, Guy. You're the bravest man I've ever. I mean, there's bravery, and then to go with this, your attitude. I spoke to him on the phone for about 30 minutes. Every time you try to turn the conversation, so how's this? He just turns it back to, hey, it's not about me. What's going on with you guys? How's everything going? So that speaks volumes, in itself, and the character of who he is and how he was brought up. So we wish them the best, and we send our prayers and thoughts out to them. And I just wanted to give you guys out there in YouTube Model Builders an update as to what's going on with him.
Yeah, I would echo that, and then for those new people that came in tonight that wrote some questions or whatever, they should understand that he's the one, I think, that actually started the YouTube Model Builders show that you're hosting and taking care of tonight.
Yes,
yeah, it was March of last year, 2014, right, is when the first episode aired, I think.
Yes.
March or April, yeah.
No, I think it was May, wasn't it? We did a one-year show, didn't we, this year?
Yeah, we did. You're right. We did do the one-year show. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, Model of Man Mike was the original. He was the guy who came up with the idea.
Actually, episode 1 was June 4th of...
June.
Oh, it's yeah, June of last year, for 2014. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That long ago.
So we've been doing this for about a year. Little over.
Y'all want to take a minute and look at what I had set up for cameras and whatever tonight?
Sure.
Let's show us, yeah, because we're still waiting for people to come on board with the interest.
I should say that I'm not advocating that everybody go out and do this. I kind of came into it because those of you that don't know, Lionel Strang did a interview with me on his show, his podcast, and I went through my entire history, if anybody's interested, which I can't imagine you would be. But nonetheless, I had a special effects company in San Antonio for almost 20 years, and so I had a lot of lights and a lot of stands and a lot of tripods and equipment already before I ever started this. But this video thing is totally new because I was used to working in film, so it's a little bit new. I want to point out some of the things that you're looking at here, and I get my pointer stick so you can see. Obviously, this is the computer. I'm working off a Mac, although it doesn't make any difference. I've used others' computers, PCs as well. This is showing Barry and what's actually on screen right now. I think what the viewers are seeing, maybe outside of the fact that they may be seeing what I'm pointing at. But nonetheless, over on the left-hand side here, then I have a regular monitor, and I have 3 of the cameras. I actually had 4 on when I started, but I've turned this one off when I went for a break one time. This is showing my 3 cameras. The red of this one shows that that's the one that's active. And those are being controlled by the switcher, which is over here. I have 4 cameras that I can put into it. I have an output, which is going to the computer, and that's what Barry and all of you are seeing. And then I have the preview, which is my monitor over here, which shows me the pictures that are up. The neat thing about this switcher is I went to a broadcast seminar on a different switcher, a TriCaster, but the TriCaster runs about $6,000 to $8,000, and it only runs 2 cameras. You have to buy another TriCaster or buy more equipment in order to be able to add cameras. This runs 4 as it is, and it's only $1,000. Now that's
only 1,000.
Some people would say, oh, only 1,000, but in terms of a video switcher, that's extremely economical. The neat thing about it also is that then I have my iPad, and this has the entire, there's an app obviously that goes along with this Cerevo Live Wedge, which is what this switcher's called. And here you can see I have the same 4 pictures that I have on the monitor behind, and all I have to do is tap, and it will change to whatever camera that I want to go to, so I can carry this around. Some of the YouTube videos that I've done for Model Railroad University, my channel, actually had these under the railroad while I was doing wiring videos, and that's how I could control 2 or 3 cameras at one time, because I could do it all off the iPad. I can also do it by just simply moving a finger. It'll change, so I can roll back and forth between. I have an indication here of my sound. I can set it up so that it will do a mix, which I think is what you all are seeing at home. It should be a blend between one and the other. If I put it on cut, then you should get, try it again, you should get an immediate change rather than the mix. Yep, come on, change for me, like that. So I have all kinds of ways that I can mix and match. I can bring in graphics from the outside if I have things loaded in the computer, or in here I can put in all kinds of things like the YouTube logo that Barry has on there. I can load that into my iPad and actually bring those up as well. So it gives me an awful lot of flexibility, and that's how I controlled the cameras tonight. I started off in my crew lounge, which is 2 rooms away from where I am right now, and then came into this area to actually do the broadcast and talk about mostly the the railroad and what I did with the scenery. But that's why you saw me walking around with the iPads, because I was actually controlling the cameras. As far as the cameras I use, I started on the main camera is my Panasonic. It's an HMC 80. It's what you would call a studio camera, huge shoulder mounted, cost a bunch of money when I bought it. It's now, of course, outdated because it's not HD. I mean, it's not 4K, it's HD. But it's an absolutely fantastic camera, and I can control almost everything with it. Iris, focus, all that kind of stuff, all off of the fancy studio controllers that people use in studios. Then I needed 2 more cameras, I thought, to really show what goes on, so I bought some consumer Panasonics. These are just V250s, and that's what you see. I'll probably move one of these over and show you. they're on stands, and I'll focus them on each other, and then you can see what they're doing. This one has the magic arm from Bogan, which I really think is cool because you can put it anywhere and just one lever locks it. But there we go, if I can get that to stay. Now you can see it in here. And it's just a little tiny consumer camera. It's not even as big as my hand. And I use that. My only other camera, the overall camera that you've been looking at, that's coming from a Sony, and it is their action camera. And it is their HD, not their new 4K one. But it does an absolutely fantastic job. The only thing I got was a complaint on my website when I did some of my YouTubes with it, because it actually does do a little lens distortion as you get out towards the edges. Then I've added 2 more cameras. I get kind of camera crazy here. But I've added a microscope camera, which was only, I think, $29 off of the internet. And it does an absolutely fantastic job of getting super, super close-ups of rivet detail and that kind of stuff. I just shot a new episode for Train Masters. Should be out in another couple of months, and it has several of the microscope shots of it because I'm talking about wheel sets and how to true them and how to use those. And then I got another camera just a few days ago that is a snake camera. It has a long, I think it's a 5 meter, almost, what would that be, 15 feet of cable on it. And I can actually put that down into my buildings, and I could walk through as if I was actually a scale person. And I haven't tried that one out yet on the videos, but I will.
What is that, like a fiber optic cable for the lens?
Yes, it's a fiber optic cable. Comes back and it connects us in a regular YouTube connection. I mean, a USB connection.
Oh, very nice.
Really, really cool cameras. I'm having a good time playing with it. I kind of retired from building layouts, and friends kind of starting to put the kibosh on me buying any more equipment. But I'm having a great time doing this stuff. I really do want to give back to the hobby and to anyone who wants to watch. If you want to listen to me talk about railroading, come to my channel on Model Railroading University, or come and watch the YouTube Model Builders show next year. I'll be on 6 times next year in different people's layouts, and we'll talk about how they build railroads. The last show that I'm going to do, I'm saving it to the last on purpose. I'll be back in here, and I hope I'm going to have most of this railroad done, and we'll talk about what it looked like tonight versus what it looks like a year from now in December of 2016.
Oh, very nice. Well, I just checked, Bill, and it looks like we plateaued out on our giveaway entry, so you want me to go and pick our winners?
Absolutely, Barry. Absolutely. Go for it.
Oh, winners.
Let's see. Hold on. Let's see something. Hold on.
Okay, winners. Let's see. And tonight, no duplicates. How do you like that?
Hold
All
on.
right, winners have been picked.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
All right. So our first giveaway of the night is Precision Design Company's joint bars, and that is going to Joe Geraci.
Joe G.
And then we have Dave's Decals as our second giveaway, and that goes to Jason Volk.
Jason Bulk.
Yes. And then our road striking kit.
You gotta give Jason Bulk the.
Yes. And our road striping kit is giveaway 3, and that is going to Philip Wyman.
Philip! Hey!
Then our tree giveaway from Bob is the 4th giveaway, and that is going to Lloyd Henchy.
Lloyd Henchy.
Our bridge from Central Valley Model Works.
Oh, the best for last. Hold on.
Stuart Ross, a.k.a. Jimmy in Michigan.
Okay!
Nice. So there's our winners for tonight, folks.
All right. Well, congratulations to all the winners on getting the on getting those prizes, and we'll definitely be in touch with you to secure your home addresses. I want to take this time to thank Miles for being on the show. Originally, when I reached out to Miles. I said, Miles, you're on for the November 21st show, and you know, I emailed him and says, what are we going to do for the November 21st show? And then I get this phone call, and it's like, Bill, it's Miles. I'm looking at my schedule, and I don't see anything about me being on the show. And I'm saying, well, you're right, because I screwed up. But he, like a trooper, he came through, and you know, and I'm very happy and ecstatic that he's part of the YouTube Model Builders. And I want to thank you, Miles, for being on the show tonight and sharing your knowledge and expertise with us.
Well, I want to thank you. And one thing I'm going to start doing now on all my videos when I finish up is to wish that everybody goes out to the railroad room and let your trains put a little smile on your face.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Thank you so much. Thank you again to Barry for his help on the technical end of things here.
Yeah.
Without him, all we'd be seeing is a dark screen, bro.
Almost saw that tonight. Yeah, I was running late tonight. I was at my daughter's brand new house, helping her paint and everything with her fiance, and I looked down and said, "Oh crap!" Bill sent me a text, and the show's in like 45 minutes. So I ran home quick and pulled the rabbit out, and we got live. So
we did it. Another show under the belt. I want to thank everybody who watched the show tonight, especially give everyone a special kind of shout out for Thanksgiving's next week on the 26th.
Absolutely.
So whatever you're doing, traveling mercies to you if you're traveling, and enjoy your holiday. I know that sometimes getting together with family can be a little crazy and a little chaotic, and everything's getting rushed in the Christmas holiday, but you know what? Don't take them for granted. Don't take your family for granted, because once they go, once they disappear, you know, you wish you had them back. So enjoy your holiday, enjoy the Thanksgiving, be grateful for what we all did, and just thank you very much for tuning in, and we appreciate your viewership. And again, please check out the e-magazine. Check out the Hangouts on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and again, we're on the third Saturday of every month. And with that said, take care, God bless, and we will see you guys on the radio. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.